Hi, I'm Stephanie, and today I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite eyeshadow palettes. So let's get into it. I'm an avid makeup collector and I have multiple palettes, and it was really hard for me to choose these top 5. So I'm gonna count backwards. So number 5 is what we're gonna start with. Number 5 is the Persona palette, and I really like this one. It has a lot of really cool tone and warm tone shadows in it. I like how versatile it is, but yet it is neutral. I'm a neutral girl. Most of my palettes I picked today, actually all of them, are very neutral. I do have other palettes, and I do like sometimes the more rosy tones and things like that, but day-to-day, everyday palettes are usually gonna be my neutral ones. But yes, I really like the Persona palette. I think this is also a really good palette to travel with because there is so many different versatility with it. You can make an all cool tone look, or you can make an all warm tone look. This is definitely why I picked this one to be my number 5 favorite palette. Number 4. Now, I normally on a regular basis do wear some sort of shimmer on my eyes. I just feel complete when I do. But this one, it took a lot for me to pick this one, but this is the Most Loved Mattes by Milani. I love this palette, and I realize that I reach for it most days when I'm doing my makeup. The transition shades in this palette are fantastic, and I like that it's in a row, so you know these 4 shadows go together. These four, you can also mix and match, obviously. But that is one of the main reasons I really like this palette. It does come with a big mirror if that is something you like. Personally, I don't really care if there's a mirror or not, because unless I'm traveling, you know, I have my own space that I can do my makeup. I don't need a mirror. But really all the Milani palettes in this style are really good. I also like the these get really fingerprinty. That is one downside if that's something that bothers you. The Soft and Sultry is also really nice. It has a lot of more cool tone shades in it. And then there's also the Bold Obsessions, and I like this one because it definitely has this beautiful gold shimmer and pearlescent shimmer in there. It does have some blues. I don't really use those that often, but I like that one as well. But you know, the Most Loved Mattes is about a $20 palette. That's not bad for the amount of eyeshadows that you get. I mean, you get 12 eyeshadows for the price of $20. That is why I picked the Milani Mattes palette, because the shades in here, I mean, you can do a whole look that's matte right out of this palette. And you know, there's more purple tones, there's more warm tones, and then you have your like more neutral cool tones. So that is definitely why I picked this one for number 4. Number 3, this is an oldie but a goodie, and I know not many people talk about this palette anymore just because there's so many out there nowadays, but this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, the original one. I really love this palette. It is very loved on my end considering how many palettes I have. You can do just a very simple neutral look if you stick over here. You can make it darker and more smoky over here. You can add a little color if you want a little purple. It's just amazing. And the white chocolate for your below your eyebrow, it's a great shade. So now Too Faced is a little bit more expensive, so this one is $49. You get 16 shades in this palette for the price of $49. I really don't think it's that bad, especially once again if you choose to use this palette every single day. You know, I'm not saying go out and buy all 5 of these palettes. You need them all. I would say these are my top 5, and I'm suggesting these, and you could buy one of them and be super satisfied with it for every day and not need necessarily all 5. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites and number 3 in my list. So my number 2 palette is the Tartlette Toasted. Now it was hard to decide. I knew it was going to be a Tartlette palette. I just wasn't sure which one when I started thinking about this video. But I do really like the Tartlette Toasted out of the Tartlette 1 and the Tartlette in Bloom. The Tartlette is mostly just cool tone mattes, and it's not something I really use a lot. I was obsessed with the Tartlette in Bloom when I first got it, and then this one came out. And this one is much more my style. I actually have it on my eyes today. It's very warm tone, so that has to be something you like. But it's just beautiful. It has some amazing shimmers, like Sunset is gorgeous on the eye, and so is Candle. I use both of those quite regularly. I may not use Flame or Simmer as much, but they're very beautiful to use. I just love this palette in the fact that you really could use every single one of these shadows in a look if you really wanted to. That'd be overkill, but you could. I also like that the darker colors aren't necessarily browns, they're more purpley. I think that really adds to a look and can add more dimension than just using a brown. And once again, this one does have a large mirror if that's something that you like. This one and the Most Loved Mattes definitely have the biggest mirrors out of these. Now the Tartlette Toasted palette is $39, and you can get it at Sephora or Ulta, and I'll link all the palettes below from different stores you can buy them from. But once you get 12 shadows, I really don't find that bad, especially if you're going to be using this every single day. I feel like it's worth the price. So my number 1 palette, I used this in my most recent Get Ready With Me video, is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry Palette. I just can't stop using this palette. I love a lot of the Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it was hard for me to not put more than one of those in this video. I felt like I needed a little variety though. But this one I love because, like I said, I usually put a shimmer on my eyes every single day. So this one has so many choices. I can do a nice gold eye, I could do a more taupey look. Really, there's that pop of pink if you're dying for a little color. There's a nice silver in here. There's just so many options you could do with this one palette. And I like that there's even grays and browns. The options are endless if you're a neutral person. The Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes are very good. They are a little powdery, so you do have to like tap your brush off when you're using them, but that's not an issue. I do that naturally anyway. And a little goes a long ways. You don't need a lot for this palette. You know, if we're gonna get serious about Anastasia Beverly Hills, my other favorite one is the Anastasia Soft Glam. This is more the rosy tone, warmer colors, which I also really like and I do use on a day-to-day basis. But other than that, I still think the Sultry is probably my favorite one. The Sultry palette is about $45. It is a little cheaper than the Too Faced palette. You are getting only 14 shades in this one as opposed to the others that, as opposed to the chocolate bar that had about 17, I think, 16, 17 shades. So you are getting a little less, but it's only $45. And like I said, I think this one, if you're a shimmer girl, this is the palette that you need. I absolutely love this palette. I can't say one bad thing about it. I just can't. Really, all these palettes, I can't say one bad thing about it. So yeah, I do have some honorable mentions that I just couldn't help but, you know, give a shout out to. So my first one, now I bought this simply because of what it is initially and then fell in love with it. So this is the ColourPop Disney Designer Palette. And obviously I bought it because it's Disney at first and I love all things Disney. But this palette is gorgeous. Now if you notice there's no mirror, if that bothers you, you may not like this, but it doesn't bother me. This palette is inexpensive compared to the other ones. So the ColourPop Disney palette is $20, which is probably one of their more expensive palettes. But once again, you're getting you know, 15 eyeshadows for that price, and they're all gorgeous. Like, you have some really beautiful shimmers, you have a lot of really great transition shades, and then you have your darker colors. You can put a little pop of color if you like more rosy and purple colors. Like, this palette is really good, and the quality of color pop eyeshadows, I have not found one palette that has been a dud. They really have good palettes and for good prices as well. Also, what I love about this ColourPop Disney collection is the packaging. Like, all those princesses, they look like fashion models as opposed to their standard princessy look, which I think comes with the designer collection idea. And then it has all their little signatures inside, and I think that's just absolutely precious. What more can you love? Disney and princesses all in one. And on the back it's called It's a Princess Thing. Come on, everyone needs this one just because it's fun. Another honorable mention that I want to give a shout out to is the Violet Voss Pro Eyeshadow Palette, and it's called #MyHolyGrail. Isn't that precious? I really like this palette, and it was really hard to decide if this needed to be in my top 5. I did go against it because it is kind of a larger palette, and you know, if you feel like you'll use all these colors, then maybe it'd be a good option. There's a lot more rosy tones in this, but there are some really good shimmers as well, more cool tone shimmers, and then obviously a nice gold. There's just a lot of good options in this palette. And Violet Voss eyeshadows are really good. I never had tried the brand before this palette and fell in love with it. And I actually bought a couple other palettes that are also really good. They're more specific than this one. This one is just very neutral with a little pop of some pink in it. So this one is a really good value. It's only $45 and you get 20 eyeshadows, so it's way more than any of the other ones I talked about, and it's the same price as the Sultry palette. Once again, the Sultry palette's probably more my alley, especially for every day, but I do go into this one quite regularly as well. And it has a lot of good transition shades. I mean, there's a shade called Transition. You can't get much more basic than that, right? Bestie's also a really good transition shade, and sometimes I find myself just grabbing this palette just to use the transition shades. That is why I had to give this one a shout out. Violet Voss has good eyeshadows, so you should check it out. And then my last honorable mention. Now, this one makes me super sad because I don't think you can get it anymore. And I love this palette, and in all honesty, if you could get it, I probably would put this in my number 2 or number 1 spot. But because it's not available, I have to just give it a shout out. And I hope that Tarte brings it back because, like I said, this palette is awesome. So this is the Aspyn Ovard palette. I hope I'm saying her right. I think she's a YouTuber. This palette screams me. I use a lot of golds. I use a lot of shimmers, like I said. And this palette has all that and a bag of chips in it, right? I mean, there's a gold, there's a beautiful like lighter shimmer, there's a beautiful under the eyebrow shimmer, like everything. And then it has the dark browns that you can put in the corner. And then the great thing about this palette, it has this beautiful, beautiful blush that I would use every day. I really wish they'd make it into a single. And then they have this highlighter that's pretty good as well. It's not my favorite highlighter, but it's definitely not bad either. I use this palette when I traveled to Europe, and we only traveled in a carry-on suitcase each for 3 weeks. So we really weren't able to bring a lot. So I was able to bring this and not anything else. And this palette was used every single day, obviously. And I fell in love with it, that is for sure. These transition shades, Santorini Sands and High School Sweetheart, are awesome. And if you're lighter skin like me, they may look like light, but when you put them on your eyes, they do show up. So I just had to give a shout out to this palette. Tarte, bring it back. It's one of my favorites. I don't even know how much it was because I can't even find it anymore. But whatever it was worth it. So I hope you enjoyed this video as I went through my top 5 eyeshadow palettes, and if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like this and other lifestyle videos, go ahead and push that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Thanks for hanging out today. We'll see you in the next one. Bye! Now,